Marta says $1 billion industry. What is $1 billion industry? You're talking about just like football and stuff? Katie told me that there was a basketball team. I don't think it was Houston. I don't remember what team it was. She said there was a basketball team recently, and I don't know if it already sold, but it is selling at least for like $1.4 billion. One team. Yeah, beer and sports. Yeah, I wonder if we can quantify it. I wonder what the real numbers are. I bet it's massive, billions at least. And then you have all of the black market stuff that most people don't even want to think about. There's an interview I would suggest everybody watch, and it's like they're releasing it in parts, and I think it's up to part 3 or 4. It's this Dutch guy. I think he's Dutch, and his name is, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, text or message the name. But I think it's Ronald Bernard. I think that's his name, and he's like apparently some kind of like Illuminati insider. Not really Illuminati. Like really, he's just some guy who worked in the sort of the black market money financing industry, basically moving money around, but doing it in a legal way. Like this country needs to get this money to this country, but they have to get past like trade embargoes or sanctions. So they buy these guns, and those good guns get sold for these drugs, and these drugs go here, and that goes here, and then that other country gets the money. So it's like he describes the whole process, and he describes how there's a lot of weird satanic stuff like child sacrificing and all this other stuff, because these guys are so like hyped up on like energy and like like whatever, cocaine and all that stuff, that they just do weird extreme stuff, and it's a whole weird whole thing. So check that interview series out. It's very interesting. But again, that's a perfect example of, there's so many of us sitting around going, we got to think positive. But the people who actually run the world, the people who are actually making a lot of money, who are making things run, are not sitting around thinking positively. In fact, they're doing really nasty, freaky, creepy, violent, disgusting shit to people who, for all other purposes, are completely innocent, especially children. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is to wake up, because I'm not saying you can't be positive. What I'm saying is, you have to be realistic. You have to look at really what's going on in this world and really why you're here. You're not here to feel good only. You're not here to only feel happiness. Maybe you are, but I don't see how really being happy would not include solving all the problems in this world so that everyone can be happy. Like actually changing the system that we live in so that it produces like God would. It just gives to everybody everything they need at all times. Because anybody who says, well, I just need to struggle, that struggle is important, blah, 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 then you don't really believe in positive thinking. You just really are all about struggling and fighting for what you believe in and for what you've earned. That's not positive thinking. That's not your thoughts actually create reality. But you can only address those problems after you've achieved all of your personal goals. Yes and no. I mean, again, it's not about anyone judging anyone. I'm not telling everybody that they have to do what I'm saying. I'm just talking to those people who are ready to hear that point and are like, oh, wow, I've reached a level where I am basically okay with my life. I still want more things, but I've always wondered why there's so many problems in this world, and it never made sense to me that it's just every person individually is creating the problems in their own individual life. It makes more sense that there's a system that runs things that we're all participating in, which kind of meets out positive to some and mostly negative to most. And so if you're in a position where you can start speaking up, then that's what I'd suggest that you do. Because, and again, it's not about making Facebook Live videos. I'm just doing it because I'm looking for people who are like, wow, Cameron, that makes a lot of sense, the stuff that you're saying. What makes you say this? What makes you so certain? How did you get to this point of awareness? Because I can share that too, how I got to these points of awareness. And there's other people out there in the world that are like me, that are at this point of awareness. And what I'm saying is, if you really want to experience bliss, if you really want to experience creativity beyond measure, the most creative thing you can possibly do with your life, that would bring you the most bliss because it would bring the most benefit to most people, is to solve the problem of why children don't have their basic needs guaranteed the moment that they are born. And I 100% agree with you, Marta, that if you are still facing a lot of problems like in your life, and I'm not saying you are, but you're speaking generally to everyone. If people are facing a lot of problems in their life and they're not even stable, like financially, let's say, you have to get to a point of financial stability. I'm not saying you have to get to a point of financial freedom yet, just to be able to start addressing these problems, but definitely financial stability. Because I and other people have things that you can participate in that will help you and everyone involved develop financial freedom. But that's not going to happen overnight, because we live in a system where it's competitive. And most people are only rewarded if they sell something or they create something that benefits the system as it is. So a solution like TechnoTutor, for example, doesn't just automatically get accepted into the education system, because it's actually educating people. It's actually giving people the real tools of education and the real tools of IQ, of vocabulary. And as we said, the higher your vocabulary, the higher your IQ. So do you think the education system wants that? It's not that the education system is a person that does or doesn't want something. It's not programmed to do that. It's not programmed to develop effective people. The education system is programmed to develop people who are dumbed down so that they feel depressed, so that they need things like Viagra because they can't get hard, even though they have a wife sitting there saying that she wants it. They can't freaking be happy, even though they have enough food on the table, they have a family, they have sports they can watch. They're still not happy. They don't even know how to communicate with their spouse, so all they do is end up... Facebook's trying to shut me down! Anyways, my point is, we have a lot of people in this world who really aren't happy. And that was one of the first things that I looked at that started me on my process of questioning a lot of things in our world, was realizing I wasn't happy. And many of you might be happy. I'm not here to tell you you aren't. You have to look at that for yourself. That's called self-honesty. I was just honest with myself, and I realized that I wasn't happy. Even though I went to a private school, I'm white, I have all the white privilege in the world. I went to a private school. I went to one of the most elite universities in the entire country, maybe in the world, on a full scholarship. I got esteemed awards, blah, 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 all that stuff. I have all the privilege in the world, and yet I wasn't happy. And that's what I'm trying to tell you, is when you're in the elite, not that I was like in the Illuminati, come on. Not that I was like, Bill Gates' son, but I'm just saying, elite means you have your basic needs met. Like, I've never had to struggle for my basic needs. That doesn't mean I didn't have to work, but there was always an opportunity. There was always something I could take advantage of that I could then get what I needed. If you have all those things, you are elite. If you're watching this right now, you are the elite. The elite is not just the Queen of England. What I'm trying to tell you is that the Queen of England is just like you. She's just born into that situation, and she's programmed with the belief system that she deserves it and that she should be there. And most of us are programmed to believe that we shouldn't be there. But the thing is that those people are just like us. The only difference is they don't care at all, at any level whatsoever, and they don't even question whether they're happy or not. And those that do get ostracized and killed. Look at what happened to Princess Diana, right? She was like the black sheep. They killed her. Happens to a lot of people. Happens to Michael Jackson. It happens to all kinds of people. You can go on and on. So yes, there is a danger when you stand up in this world and you start speaking out. That's why we have to come together and we have to work as a group. Doesn't mean we all have to be the same. Doesn't mean you have to talk like me. You have to act like me. You don't have to be like me. But it's the starting point. That when you build a mastermind, the important thing is that you support each other. But I'm not going to support people that just want to feel happy and don't care about the problems in this world. Doesn't mean I'm going to attack you, but if I see you say stuff that's not common sense, I will point it out, and then you're free to argue with me. You're free to challenge the point. You're free to block me. You're free to unfriend me. You're free to just totally ignore me. That doesn't bother me. In fact, do it because it pushes me to express myself more effectively. But my point is, I want to create a mastermind of people around the world that really want to solve these problems. And like Marta pointed out, you're making some really good points. This isn't saying, okay, tomorrow start solving the problem of poverty or whatever. The point is, keep putting yourself into a position where you are able to have more influence, you're able to have more financial freedom, and more freedom of time, so that when it comes time, we can stand up in this world and we can make a difference. Because what I'm doing is educating lots of children and adults, but my primary goal is to educate lots of children with this technology that will support a child to develop a vocabulary so effective that no one can manipulate them, because they'll be able to think effectively, and they'll be so intelligent that they can't be fooled. They just see right through it. Just like I see right through all the bullshit that people say on Facebook when they're talking about all what they're talking about, because I'm intelligent. And so that's my goal, is to develop an education platform that's so massive, that it impacts so many children, that 20 years from now, people like you and I, who are much older, can stand up as politicians and say, I have a solution that will benefit everybody in the world and will allow everyone to reach self-realization and maximize their potential as human beings. Of course, we won't say it like that, although maybe we can, because there'll be so many people who have such a superior education. They'll be like, hey, that guy's talking my language. Plus, that guy really helped me out, and that's the reason I was educated, is because of that man's company and the people that are in his company and who helped me. And there will be people who don't work with TechnoTutor directly, but who are lawyers and psychologists and, other industries, life coaches. If you're a life coach, we should talk, because what I have will help your life coaching. People will still require a life coach. They'll still require some kind of guidance because they are in a process and maybe you're a little bit further. But what I'm telling you, what I have will help you become a better life coach. It'll help your clients become better life coachees, because they'll actually be able to understand what you're saying, and they'll actually be able to learn it. And the next time they come to you, it won't be a repetition of the same cycle. It'll be actually something new. So all the life coaches, you need to understand, there's no competition between me and you. What I have is the foundation, is the vocabulary, is the thinking, is the way you can change your thoughts. The life coach is still a very effective tool because they are the guide. And then I won't have to life coach everybody that uses TechnoTutor. They can just have someone like you who's also using it, because you should be using it too, because you'll become more effective. A more effective vocabulary means that the quality of your thoughts will change automatically. And so what I was saying earlier in starting this video with, in terms of real versus fake positive thinking, is if you're having to deliberately choose positive thoughts, you're not really positive thinking. You're just lying to yourself. Positive thinking should come automatically. And if your vocabulary is effective, and if you do it properly, which it wasn't done properly. Like if you haven't used TechnoTutor, it wasn't done properly, unless you were born with the gift. Unless you were born with a gift like Jesus was, where you just automatically positive all the time. If you're having to train yourself, what I'm saying is you're probably doing a really good job and you're probably trying really hard, but I can make that process easier for you. We can do it at a quantum speed instead of the really slow speed of the mind, because thoughts are very slow. If you have to repeat an affirmation 100 times a day for a whole week, how long is it going to take you to do all the affirmations you want? What if you could just do one affirmation and directly download it right into your unconscious competence, and then move on to the next one? And then you can choose the personality you want to develop. I'm telling you, you probably don't want to act like me. I'm not a super happy, positive person. Sometimes I like to laugh and joke, but I'm kind of a sarcastic person. That's the personality that I've developed. But it doesn't have to be that way. In any moment, I can shift. That's what made me a great tutor, is I could take on a different personality that works for the different person. But of course, if I'm doing a live video, I'm not going to try to speak to everybody. I'm just speaking in a way that those who are ready to stop bullshitting themselves are willing to hear. Because I could come on here, love and light, and get a whole bunch of followers. Trust me, I could do it. I could get on here, be all love and light, put on some flowing robes, lose a little weight, looking real good, yoga poses, and I could get tons and tons of followers. But I'm not interested in that. I don't want followers. I want people who want to implement solutions. I want people who want to make a difference in the world. No, Craig, I'm not. Maybe I'll do a parody video where I'll do that one time. But my point is, everybody's doing that. Everybody's already doing that. Rocco, if you're watching, I'm like right down the street, so I'm almost there. Everybody's already doing all that stuff, and it's not helping anybody. It's not changing anything. All the messages of the New Age and spirituality have been around for long enough. They've had their time. The time has come. They haven't changed anything. There's still children starving right now. There's still children who are born to this world, and their entire experience of themselves is pain and suffering until they die. And that is not acceptable. It doesn't matter if I will never experience it. It doesn't matter to me whether I will ever experience that. It matters to me that it exists, and it's not right. It's not acceptable. It's not about right or wrong. So when I say right, I don't mean it's about good or bad. It's not about good or bad. Because you have to understand, if you make it about good or bad, you will lose. Because the people who run this world, when I say run, I mean the people who actually, what they do on a daily basis affects everybody, whereas what you do doesn't, the people who actually have an effect on everybody in the world on a daily basis are not positive, and they are not good. They don't care about morality. They just teach morality to everybody else, and they use things like the church to do that so that everybody else will fall into that trap and never do anything. That's bottom line. And they teach you about karma. So you're like, well, it's just my karma that I'm in this situation. No, it's not. You were born into a system. You were born into a system just like in the Matrix that just treats you like a battery, like a slave. And the people who benefit from it are also slaves, and they don't even realize it because they're in such a level of comfort that it doesn't bother them that they're actually just slaves. So I would highly suggest you watch this video again because there's a lot in there. Please for Technotutor. Yeah, you should contact me, Craig. We'll talk about it. But my point is, real positivity comes from unconscious competence. Real positivity comes from your thinking is already correct at the cellular level. So therefore, you don't have to try to convince yourself, right? And trust me, I've tried the convince myself route. You will always fall because it requires energy to do that. And energy has a beginning and energy has an end. It's like a battery. It will run out. And they've even shown, Katie was telling me about some research they did recently where they actually showed, like, you know, in physics or in, you know, math, you have waves and they have functions. Like they have equations that describe these waves. And so, you know, wave has an amplitude, which is how high it goes. It has a frequency, which is how fast it goes up and down. It also has a period, which is how long it takes to go into one complete cycle, that time that it takes. And they actually showed that different emotions, different feelings have different periods. So in other words, if you're feeling a certain emotion like grief or embarrassment or whatever, if you just breathe long enough, that emotion will stop because it's just based on energy. So I'll leave that for you today. Same thing works with positivity. If you miss a breath and you're trying to be positive, you'll fall. Or if something comes in to disturb your equanimity, your composure, your sense of balance, you'll fall. And then what happens is you built up that high positive, and the moment you fall, bam, you go right down real fast, real low, because you can't go up this high without going down that low. I'd rather just be doing this and getting where I want to go than going like this and then going all the way down and then totally crashing and losing all of my stability. That doesn't mean you can't be intense. All right, folks, talk to you later. Bye.